My mother tells a story that the day that she found out that she was pregnant with me, she went straight from the doctor's office to an event where Dr. Martin Luther King was speaking. This was Madison, Wisconsin in the mid 60s. And I think of that often as one of my first moments of um, being in the world, if you will. And beyond that, my parents were 15 and 16 years old in 1947 when India won independence from British rule. And they were part of that first generation of post-colonials, like that grew up in a post-colonial India. And they were a part of dreaming and imagining and reimagining what a new country could be like. And that both those stories have deeply informed my own activism. In the last 3 years, since I've been at the New School, I have had the honor and pleasure of working with leaders in the environmental justice movement, and am in many ways hoping to bring that experience of reimagining what the world could look like under different circumstances once certain systems of oppression and structural inequality have been defeated. What history, research, and social movement theory tell us is that there are generally four major components to successful social movements. The first is that there needs to be the opening, the possibility, the political opportunity for a movement to happen. And that generally means that there is some kind of fissure or crack or weakness in the status quo. The second component is that social movements require social networks. And this is social networks, both in terms of people being knowing each other, connecting to each other, trusting each other, but also the mechanisms and the vehicles through which to mobilize together, to be on the same page, to share an agenda, to share a set of demands. The third component is frames and meaning. So if you think about Black Lives Matter, just the frame of that movement tells us what is important, why people are doing it, and what action they should take together. It gives meaning to a set of experiences that people have and things that they have witnessed that informs action together. The fourth component, and I think this is the component that we struggle with the most, is that social movements are comprised of cycles of contention. And these cycles occur over years and decades. So it's not just within a news cycle or even within an election cycle, but it is decades of groups of people with a shared agenda, challenging the system, pushing the system, pressing against the status quo, making demands. And there are three ways in which these demands are made. So they can be, and the literature calls it constrained demands, which is demands within the system. So it is lobbying, it is getting permits for marches, it is playing by the rules of the system in order to pressure the system for change. The second form, and we have seen this most recently in terms of what has happened around Trumpism in the United States and white supremacy, is violent. So people invading the Capitol, carrying guns, threatening violence, actual physical violence, destruction of property. And that form of contention can oftentimes both builds support and solidarity and press for demands, but it can also weaken the demands and the moral authority of people who are making those demands. The third form is disruptive contention. And this is where essentially people are organizing to get their opposition, to get the elites, to get the system, whether it is corporations or the government or even the media, off the script of what people understand so that they think about the issues in different ways and take different kinds of action. This Environmental Justice Fellowship is really envisioned as a space for people to do that, to come together, to think about what are the conditions, what are the scripts, how can we get people off the scripts, to test and experiment with those new kind of ideas and actions. As I think about 2021 and what is before us, the term bricolage keeps coming to mind as we think both about where are we coming from, but really use this as an opportunity to imagine the new and push for the new and demand the new, so that by the end of 2021, things look very different. So, going back to the question of what are the different things that we can be doing and what can we be doing differently, and how might we create the space and spaciousness to explore, to test, to be in community together, and really imagine creatively what is the new that we can be building together. I look forward to doing that.